timeline reading. The first thing to do when looking at a timeline is to see what the title is. In this case, the title says Ancient Mesopotamia Timeline. That means the timeline is going to be about ancient Mesopotamia. Now, then we go and look at the actual timeline itself. So in this case, if I scroll down, I see there's a timeline with a lot of different arrows and boxes and things. So what I do is I look at the timeline, and I remember the timeline gets read from left to right. That means what happened in 10,000 BC happened further in the past than on the right where it says today. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through and I'm going to look at the timeline and then look at the boxes. So what I do is I look at this and I see at about 4000 BC, there's a box, and then there's an arrow that takes me to the box. So after looking at 4000 BC and looking at the arrow, I see that it says in the box about 4000 BC, first cities, ancient Mesopotamians establish the city of Ur along the Euphrates River. Now, if I have trouble reading that, I can go and I can zoom in to make it bigger. So don't be afraid to do that, and don't be afraid to zoom in and make it bigger if you need to. Then what I do is I look over and I go and I see. And I go and I see the next part. So if I look over here, the next one, it tells me that about 3,500 to 3,000 years BC. So I look down and I see right here, there's this. It tells me that Sumerians used irrigation to provide stable food supply, enabling villages to grow to powerful city-states. So when looking at this map, you should be looking at the different boxes to see the dates, and then also going up, because this map actually gives you pictures. This timeline gives you pictures, and it tells you about each event. So when looking at this timeline, you look from left to right for the dates, and then you also look and see that each line on the timeline is going to go up and it's going to give you a picture of what happened. It's going to tell you the year and give you a little bit about it. Also, make sure that you look down, and you're going to see that there's a bottom to it as well. So make sure you pay attention to everything, because they all give you different dates, different pictures of the event, and different explanations. And then you go and answer the questions related to that timeline. The second timeline is in a little bit of a different form. This one is in an up and down form. That means what is at the top happened the longest time ago, and what is at the bottom happened most recently. And this timeline just tells you events that happened. So if I look and I see that in 5000 BC, the Sumer formed the first towns and cities. They used irrigation to farm large areas of land. And then I go down. In 4000 BC, the Sumer established powerful city-states, building large ziggurats at the center of their cities as temples to their gods. And then I keep going, and I look down, and I see that there's 3500 BC. It tells me what happened. I see that there is 3300 BC, 3200 BC, and I see that goes all the way down to the year 1750 BC, where Hammurabi dies and the first Babylonian Empire begins to fall apart. So after I read through everything, I go and I answer all the questions. Then what I do is I see that there's a paragraph. So I know that because the timelines came first, this reading will be about everything that I saw in the timeline. So in order to answer this question, I need to look at the paragraph and read it. The earliest cities in this area date back to 3500 BCE. These first cities were like small independent countries. They each had their own ruler as well as their own farmland, which provided food. Suppose that you were visiting one of these early cities. You would see a walled settlement surrounded by farmland used to supply food for the city. You would see strong city walls built of sun-baked bricks. Moats or ditches filled with water would surround these walls and help keep out enemies. During an attack, people living outside the city walls would flee inside for protection. So after reading the paragraph, I know that it talks about Sumerians building cities and city-states. So after I read that, I would then go and I would answer the question. That is all for timeline reading today. Please let your teacher know if you have any questions. Thank you.